Hey, what's up, you guys? So look, maybe you're ready to go ahead and take the next step in your financial journey to go from learning about, personal finance and investing to actually becoming an investor yourself. And that is absolutely what I want you to do. I want you to pursue investing into the stock market, pursue investing into real estate. So then that way you could ultimately hit the grand goal of ultimately reaching financial freedom. But there is a caveat, there is a catch. So there's three things that we definitely want to make sure that you got completely covered and taken care of before you become an investor. Alright, so if you're new here to the channel, what you want to do is you want to look right here on the bottom right side of the screen. You want to find that subscribe button. Go ahead and give that subscribe button a quick tap for me. So that way you will get notified by YouTube each and every time I upload a video, just like this one you're watching right now. And then if you could just do one more quick thing for me before we go ahead and dive right into today's video. Find the thumbs up button right here beneath this video. Go ahead and give that thumbs up button a quick tap for me. It helps this video and my channel reach a wider and wider audience so more people can go ahead and learn the information that you are learning in today's video as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into today's video. All right, you guys, so these three things that I'm about to share with you right now in the video, they're really, at least in my opinion, they're like a financial fitness checklist to let you know whether or not you are financially fit and ready to start investing. So you definitely do not want to miss any one of these three. So be sure to watch this video from beginning to end. And I hope that yes, you do pass the test and that you do not have any of these three things going on and that you are ready to start investing. But hey, even if you got one or two going on, we could go ahead. I'll give you the information in the video what you could do to get that on track, so then that way you could get yourself financially fit and that way you can move forward and start investing. All right, you guys, so let's go ahead and jump into number one out of these three things that we're going to be asking ourselves, so that way we could find out if we are ready to start investing. So number one is you need to ask yourself, am I living a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle? And if your answer to that question is yes, I'm living a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, then you absolutely are not ready. You are not financially fit to start investing and to become an investor. First and foremost, you're gonna have to deal with that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. So in case there's anyone out there who does not know what it means to live a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, what it means is that each and every pay period, from one pay period to the next, you spend all of the income from that paycheck. So like if you get paid today, you are going to spend all of the income that you receive on that paycheck all the way up into the day of your new paycheck, or maybe even days before. You are anticipating and you cannot wait to get paid again because you basically do not have any more money to spend and you are absolutely desperate for that next paycheck because you can't pay for the things you need to. You cannot spend any more money because you do not have any more money. You are truly living from one paycheck to the next. This is what it means to live a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. And someone who is already living so financially tight with their income from one paycheck to the next, that is exactly the type of person who should not be, investing, or who is not financially fit and ready to become an investor. Because obviously, like, you are stretching your money as tight as you possibly can, or even tighter than you obviously should be, to put yourself in a strong financial situation. So first and foremost, you have to deal with that situation, because the chances are somewhere in your bi-weekly budget or your monthly budget, you are simply spending too much money in some areas, and then you just really need to look at that and ask yourself, like, hey, where am I overspending? Is it, are my mandatory living expenses, are those too high? Where can I cut back to lower down some of that excess spending that I'm having? Or hey, maybe my mandatory expenses are good, like I got all those in check, but with all my extra cash that I have left over, maybe I'm just spending totally recklessly in those areas with all my free and clear cash, and that you just really need to look at that and kind of create a much more intentional budget with that income that you are getting from paycheck to paycheck and on a monthly basis. So that way you could kind of cut down that spending, and then now you're no longer going to be living from paycheck to paycheck. You're going to go from this paycheck to the next paycheck and still have plenty of free and clear cash left over. And then, like I said, you're no longer going to be living a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. And then once you start doing those things, you will be in a much more stronger financial situation. And then yes, you will become more financially fit and ready, or at least put you in a situation where now you are starting to become more prepared to become an investor. All right, you guys, so let's go ahead and jump into number 2. So in number 2, the question that I want you to ask yourselves to find out if you are financially ready to become an investor and start investing is, do I have high interest debt? So in my opinion, I would define high interest debt as any type of debt that you have to pay interest on, and that the interest rate for that debt is 5% or more. All right, so if you've borrowed some money and the interest rate on that money that you have borrowed is 5% or greater, then I absolutely would say that you should focus your income on paying down that high interest rate debt before worrying about trying to take your income and become an investor and start investing into assets. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because it does not make financial sense for you to try to take your hard-earned income and invest it out there with the hope of growing it, and who knows what type of return that you can get or that you won't get. But what we do know for sure is that you have a locked-in interest rate that is on the debt that you have borrowed, and we know for sure that that debt is at least 5% or greater, and that is compounding monthly. And so you have compound interest working against you, and we want to eliminate that before we could start getting compound interest working in our favor. So you got this debt that's just attacking you over here, preventing you from building wealth, and that's going to make it tremendously hard for you to build wealth. And then how are you even going to have a good sizable amount of money to invest each and every single month in order to put into assets when you have this monthly payment or multiple monthly payments with all kinds of different interest rates that are high, and you have to make those monthly payments? And you can't neglect those, because now that's just going to tear up your credit score and get you into a whole nother financial mess, and you don't even want to go there. So this is why I'm saying, if you have high interest rate debt, you want to make sure that you go ahead and pay this off. I mean, this could be personal loans, credit card debt, HELOC loans, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whatever type of high interest rate debt you have, if you have it and the interest rate is 5% or greater, make sure that you prioritize paying off that debt before you start looking at becoming an investor and start investing into the stock market or into real estate. All right, you guys, so let's go ahead and jump into number 3. So in number 3, the question that I want you to ask yourself is, do I have sufficient savings set aside? So what is sufficient savings? Like, that's super vague, right? So in my opinion, sufficient savings set aside is going to look something like no less than 1 month of your mandatory living expenses saved up in cash in some type of savings account, high yield savings account. Whatever you do, do not save that money in your checking account, because you will inevitably spend it. So sufficient savings is going to look like you having whatever your mandatory living expenses, whatever it costs you to live 1 whole month with just paying all your mandatory living expenses, whatever that total adds up to, that you need to have at least that amount of money in cash set aside in some type of bank account, right? So you want to have nothing less than 1 month of that mandatory living expenses, but an ideal situation would look something more like 3 to 6 months of your mandatory living expenses. But I personally say, if you got at least the 1 month, you're going to be okay, but you definitely want to make an effort to add to that 1 month of mandatory living expenses. Now, why is this so important? Because if you do not have at least 1 month of your mandatory living expenses set aside in cash, and you go ahead and say, all right, I don't have no type of reserve cash put aside, I'm going to go ahead and start investing my income out there. I'm going to start trying to, invest my money. I'm going to grow and build my wealth. Well, as soon as some type of financial bump comes along in the road in your financial life, and maybe work slows down a little bit, maybe you lose your job, whatever happens, right? Or maybe something just goes on where it kind of puts some type of financial strain on you, and you're like, hey, now where do I go ahead and get the money to get myself out of this situation? Maybe it's a car breaks down, maybe it's some type of major financial repair, or just some large expense, right? And when that thing comes up and you do not have quick cash that you could go ahead and access to go ahead and resolve the issue that has popped up, the first thing you're going to do is look right at your investments, and you might have picked really great investments. They could even be performing very well. That's going to be even more reason why you're going to go to that, because you're like, oh, look, I got a good amount of money built up, and you really don't want to sell them, but because you need the money, now you're going to tap into your investments, and now you're defeating the whole purpose of why you invested in the beginning. The whole purpose of why you started to invest was to grow and build your wealth, not so that you can invest. So then that way when some expense comes up, you could tap into your investments, destroy your investment, cash out, get the money, and then pay some, some bill or some financial thing that popped up, and now you don't have any more assets, or your assets are, that's it. You've ruined the compound interest that could be happening with your investments because you've tapped them out, you cashed out. This is why I'm saying you want to make sure that you have some reserved cash set aside, so that way when financial bump in the roads pop up, it's not going to be much of a financial bump in the road. You're just going to be like, oh, this thing came up, let me tap the cash, let me go ahead and pay for this thing, resolve the issue, and then it goes from being an issue to no issue whatsoever. And you never have to worry about tapping your investments, cashing out of them, or selling part of them, or anything like that. And then you don't have to be saying, oh, let me try to be slick, keep my assets, and then, hey, let me go ahead and get myself into like credit card debt or some other type of thing, or a personal loan, or whatever type of way of borrowing the money, so that way you could keep your assets, but then go get yourself into some type of debt. You don't want to play that game. You want to be in a strong financial situation, and in order to do that, you want to make sure that you have some type of cash set aside before you start investing. And then once you've had that cash set aside, you don't have to worry about necessarily always adding to it. Sure, it's great if you do, but even if you don't, at least you always have some cash set aside, so that way when things go wrong financially, you have some cash to tap into and you don't have to worry about tapping out your investments. Okay, so what's going to happen next is a video is going to pop up here on the screen. I want you to go ahead and click that video, and I will see you in that next video.